Right, hello everyone. I am back home. I am no longer in a tent, no longer on a bike, no longer on a train or another train or another train. I am actually back home, and it's quite strange being back home. It's quite odd, sort of getting used to it. Um, but I wanted to make a bit of a review video to let everyone know sort of how I am after the project, how the whole journey went, a sort of a grand review, if you like, of everything. I'll try to keep this a bit briefer than last one. I think the last time I did this after the first ride was about 20 minutes long, so I'll try and keep it short. But yeah, there's a lot to go through, but please bear with me. If you want to know about the results and the fundraising and everything, skip to the end. I'll do that all at the end, but I'll try and review on the way up to that. Right, looking right back to the sort of start of this journey, even before it actually happened, it almost didn't happen. This was always designed to be the sort of 2 weeks that I couldn't complete when I first did Cycle for Change Part 1. That was supposed to be an 8-week project. It ended up being 6 weeks after endless storms and then the return of COVID in the form of Omicron and stuff. I had to cut it short a bit early. And so this was always intended to be the 2 weeks that I couldn't do originally. So sort of claiming those 2 weeks back. And I'm pleased to say it's worked. Those 2 weeks have been completed. Obviously I missed sort of a day, if you like, due to bad weather at the end, but otherwise it generally went to plan. As to plan as it could have been, and I ended up having a big cycle in Scotland and raised some money, which was fantastic. So in that sense, it's been a brilliant success. In terms of how the actual journey went, oh god, I mean, the initial beginning, leaving King's Cross Station was an absolute mission. For those of you that don't know, I sort of left London on the day that Storm Babette hit the East Coast, and I was due to be basically getting a train up to Edinburgh, which is kind of on the east coast of Scotland, and then I was supposed to be cycling up the east coast of Scotland, which, along with the rest of the sort of northeast of the UK, had been just hammered by Storm Babette and had closed roads. It had caused flooding, caused landslides. It stopped trains from running. So as I was leaving King's Cross, there was basically no trains running north. Anywhere north of Peterborough was kind of closed on the east coast. So it really was looking like I wasn't going to actually get anywhere north. I was actually walking out of the train station at King's Cross because I was told my train would not happen. And as I was walking out, I was very fortunate and caught someone who was just talking to one of the sort of attendants at the train station, and he said, actually, there is going to be a train running. It's the very last one. If you hang around, you might get it. So me, along with like hundreds of other people, had to make this mad dash for this last train. We all squeezed on the train. Amazingly, some awesome train guard, no idea what her lady was, she was absolutely brilliant. She basically got loads of people off the train who were squashed into the bike cupboards and the toilet spaces and that. She got them off so that I could get my bike on, got my bike in the cupboard, and then I stood in the cupboard with the bike, and that's where I stayed for the next 6 hours and actually got myself to Edinburgh. So that was a hectic journey. It was not the start I wanted. I wanted to have this nice sort of sit down, smooth train journey ride up to Edinburgh, chill out, relax, get the journey started. But no, it was 6 hours in a cupboard, stressed, tired, sort of frustrated. But anyway, the journey happened. I got there, so that was fantastic. And the journey itself had a slight change of plan. I'll get the little map out again. So my plan was originally to get a train up to Edinburgh and then cycle up the east coast up here and work my way up round as far as I could up this way. I knew at some point I'd have to cut it short. I didn't have enough time in 2 weeks to go all the way around, but I'd have to get up here somewhere, cut across, and then wiggle my way down to Fort William or somewhere around there to get a train home. What ended up happening when I hit Edinburgh, news reports were that the east coast up here was just devastated. There was loads of road flooding, loads of landslides, road closures, all kinds of stuff happening. So I did not want to get involved in any of that stuff. So I actually ended up going up through here and cycled through the Cairngorm mountain range. Not over the tops, obviously, but kind of through the middle. And got myself up to just north of Inverness, a place called Evanton. And from Evanton, I could then cut across up to here in Ullapool. Did that in a day, just cycled across Scotland, as you do. And then I could work my way down the west coast, which was much, much drier, much, much better, and much, much more suitable to what I was doing. Got myself down over to Skye, and then back over to the mainland, and across to Fort William, and then home from there on the train. So my loop, actually, instead of being this kind of around the coastline, ended up being kind of up the middle and then across and down. It was really wasn't what I had planned. But there you go. That's the thing with making plans, you might have to change them. So Memories from the journey. Oh God, I mean, the amount of memories I've got. This journey was so incredible. Scotland is such an amazing place. Anyone who's been there just understands completely. But I'd been to Scotland before, but not spent that much time there. But to be sort of completely immersed in the wild of Scotland, in the Highlands, surrounded by the mountains, the coast, the lochs, everything was just incredible. As I said before, it's like North Wales or the Lakes or Cornwall, but just bigger. Everything's bigger, and everything's got more. So if you look at a view, you don't just have a view of a loch, you have a view of a loch and a waterfall and a castle. Or you look at the sea, you've got the sea and a seal swimming around with you, and a loch beside you, and a waterfall behind you. There's always just more there. So I never really got bored of that in a sense. Everywhere I went was just bigger and better and more amazing than the last place. So that was just an incredible experience. I've made a few notes actually. I'm going to list off kind of my memories of this. In no particular, well, they are in order, but in no sort of order of amazingness. Some good, some bad. So obviously the train journey there was hectic. That was nuts. The cycle through the Cairngorms was amazing, looking at the snow-covered mountains and just seeing and the cycle path through there was incredibly smooth. So that's fantastic. Whoever designed that. The 2-hour dead end road. So when I was at Everton, I cycled basically for 2 hours to a dead end and had to turn back. Right back to where I started, back to the actual entrance of the campsite I came out of. Even waved to the same guy who set me off. So that was a huge disappointment, big low point. But that was the start of the day that I actually cut across the whole country. So what started as a negative ended up being an amazingly positive day. The one day cycle across from east to west. That was because of that. Yeah, that was hectic. Wild camp below Sker Moor. That was just unreal. Just right at the bottom of this huge mountain, looking at snow on the tops, and I'm down the bottom, and I can hear deer kind of roaring and bellowing at each other. It's obviously rutting season, so I've never really witnessed that before, but to see deer right outside my tent, and through the night to hear stags barking and bellowing at each other, absolutely unreal. Amazing experience. First views, the first arrival of the West Coast. I mean, when I first got there was barely any wind, it was blue sky. I sat down by the sea to have my lunch, and a seal pops its head up and swims around in front of me and then disappears. I mean, what more of an amazing welcome to the coast is that? That was fantastic. And that it just carried on getting better from there. I mean, cycling along the coast was obviously amazing. It was freezing cold, obviously, but the sunshine was out all the time on the sort of first day or two of the coastline. So, and then wild camping beside a loch at Loch Ewe, that was incredible. And the peninsula, riding around the peninsula from sort of Torridon round to Applecross, absolutely incredible views. Super hilly, very, very hilly day. I was about 1,200 metres of up that day, but amazing views, just, yeah, on and on and on. And obviously the Bielak, the incredible Bielak na Bar. First day I attempted it, got sort of greeted by gale force headwinds that was absolutely crazy. Had to turn back, it basically got a bit unsafe. But then had to go the next day, quiet most of the way up, and then as I got to the summit, the headwinds returned. It still was a struggle to stand up. It was a huge physical effort. I cannot recommend to anybody trying to cycle up the Bielak with a fully loaded touring bike. It's ridiculously hard and quite scary at times, but it did happen. I did get over somehow, managed to haul the bike up, got over the top, down the other side, and that ended up being the biggest day of the whole journey. It was absolutely huge that day. Really exhausted, but managed to get myself from Applecross up and over the Bielak, round Loch Carron, out the other side, back out to the coast and onto Skye all in one day. That was huge, massive physical effort, but very rewarding because I managed to get onto Skye early and get off early and avoid the storm, so that was cool. Obviously crossing onto Skye was amazing, and that worked out so perfectly. I could get the early ferry and then stay with Lee. Lee, you are an absolute legend. Stayed with him for a day, and it ended up being 2 nights because the next day I was supposed to be cycling from Mallaig back towards Fort William, and more gales came in. There was no point trying to have a go. It was just too windy, so cancelled all that and sort of had a day twiddling my thumbs around in Mallaig. But it was quite nice. I walked around Mallaig, had a little look around, planned some more routes, and ended up being positive. So that was cool. And because of that, ended up having an absolutely incredible last day. The sun was out. Again, it was freezing cold, but the sun was out. Took a slight detour around the coast, had a wild swim. That was amazing. Again, freezing cold. But yeah, it ended up with a completely different day. Stopped and looked at the amazing views, stopped and looked at the Harry Potter viaduct, all that. That was amazing. So that was fantastic. So just so many memories, so many things that I saw that no one else would have. So things like deer just popping their head up as I was cycling along beside me, seeing foxes run along beside me. It was just the wildlife sightings. There were so many wildlife sightings that, I'm not a wildlife on one photographer. I can't get my camera out in time. So loads of things that I saw that no one else will see. So whether it's, like I said, deer crossing the path, whether it's frogs hopping in front of me, whether it was rabbits or birds flying around, incredible things I saw that no one else will. And that's great. I mean, those sort of things are for me, really, so that's fantastic. So the actual experience of it was incredible, absolutely phenomenal. And obviously that wouldn't be possible without all the people who support. Obviously, massive thank you to all the Cycle for Change brands, all the partners that have supported me through this, whether they're providing kit, whether they're providing info, whether it's social media space, anything that sort of helps this project move along, and you've been incredible. So no particular order, just huge thanks to Sig Bottles, to Leaping Fish, Marlow Watch Company, Caradis. You guys came in late, but you were amazing, just sort of captured what I was doing and got on board. Fantastic. Goyles, Waterhall, Rich Key, thank you very much, Rich. Schwalbe Tyres, Grizzly Bars for the soap, Headcase helmets, amazing helmets, please check out Headcase. Sprayway for the clothing, I'd be so much wetter if it wasn't for Sprayway, so thank you very much. And Trek Mates, obviously, and Earth Nuts, the peanut crisps, absolutely brilliant. Again, came in quite close to me, sort of setting off, but they supported me and provided me with some extra nutrition, so thank you so much. But everyone, thank you. I can't thank you enough for your support during all of this. It's been absolutely amazing. Couldn't have done it without you, and if I tried I would have been a lot more miserable, I can tell you that, a lot more soggy and a lot more sort of struggling all the way through, so thank you so much. Now obviously there's something I've mentioned throughout, but it's not easy. Physically it's demanding, logistically it's a challenge, certainly a resilience test doing something like this. But it's good, you come through it and you realise you've got through these things and you overcome all these obstacles, so that's great. But the toughest thing, as always, by far, is just being away from home. Being away from my family, my wife and my kids, that is hard. It's 2 weeks without them there, and that does get difficult. And as I said in one of my posts, there always comes a time in a trip where your enjoyment and excitement of the trip gets outweighed by the amount you want to be sort of back home with your family. And that is a struggle. So it has been hard. However, a huge thanks to my family for just being behind me and for sort of putting up with me planning all this and actually sort of enduring me not being there. So that's been tough. Obviously, a huge thanks to my parents and my sister Philippa for their just endless support and encouragement. Philippa, if you check out Philippa Cakes, Philippa Kennedy Cakes, so she does amazing cakes, and she used that as a way of sort of raising funds and promoting what I was doing. So massive thanks for my sister Philippa. Obviously, the biggest thanks of all goes to my wife Claire. I love Claire very much, and to have Claire behind me on this trip, to have her support and her backing, obviously it is incredible. But more so from that, to be at home, to look after the two boys, to deal with the school run, to deal with one of them being poorly, to look after the house, to do everything that's involved with that, as well as supporting me, as well as doing all the other bits and pieces that she has to do, and on top of being a full-time teacher as well. And it's not easy. So Claire definitely had the harder part of this challenge. I just ride a bike for a couple of weeks. Claire did all the kind of the home stuff and the managing stuff and looking after the boys, which is just such a huge task. And I can't thank her enough. So thank you so much, Claire. But the family as a whole, so Claire and the boys and my mum and dad and my sister and my wider family, everyone, that's what becomes the Cycle for Change team. And work as well. Claire's Court School, thank you so much for putting up with me just disappearing for 2 weeks and all the kind of added stress of me planning this beforehand. You guys have been amazing, and you've been sort of passing on what I've been doing onto social media. You've been sharing it as well, so thank you for your support. And that's what makes the team. That's what makes this work. No, I don't have a support team. I don't have a van following me or people putting out social media for me, but I do have this amazing team behind me that supports and follows and obviously backs everything that I do, and it wouldn't be possible without them. So thank you to everybody. Now, obviously, goes without saying, everybody who has donated, everyone who supported this, there would be no Cycle for Change. There would be no point in Cycle for Change without the people who donate and support what I'm doing. So a huge thank you to what everyone has done, anyone who's donated. It does make a difference. It makes a huge difference. Your money goes to the World Land Trust. They use that money to buy, protect and preserve land that is under threat, and it does protect that land and the biodiversity within it. So it is a big positive fight back against climate change, and it is a big way of protecting land that in the future may not have been there without the work of the World Land Trust. So thank you so much. Now, to add to all that, let's talk about numbers and logistics and things. So actual numbers. In terms of numbers, last time I did this by number series. I'm not doing that this time. I'll talk about it all in this. But distances, okay? Physical distance cycled. So on this round, so Cycle for Change Part 2, I actually cycled 760 kilometres. It certainly feels like it, but yeah, it's amazing how it totals up. 760 kilometres. Now, potentially more impressive than that is the ascent. So the amount of vertical hill climb that I've done. So the amount of metres I've gone up is 9,868 metres during Cycle for Change Part 2. So over the last, it was actually 12 days of cycling, 9,868. That is actually higher than Everest. It's actually, if you take Everest, then stick Snowdon on top of it, that's roughly about the same height. So that is crazy. No wonder my legs ache. Now, if you combine that with Cycle for Change Part 1, so Part 1 and Part 2, that actually gives us, it means that over the whole project I have cycled 2,790 kilometres. So well done to the noble steed for surviving that, and that's amazing. In terms of ascent, I've actually gone up 26,916 metres with a fully loaded touring bike. Now, that's something I'm quite proud of. So it's a lot of hill climbing, a lot of distance. So well done to the noble steed for surviving all that. So that's great. Right, the all-important details, fundraising. So Cycle for Change Part 2. In terms of donations that have been sent in, we've had £1,200 or thereabouts sent in donations. That doesn't include gift aid, but that, £1,200 sent in donations. Now, obviously, as you know, the first 5 days or so of my project were at the tail end of World Land Trust's Big Match Fortnight. Now, £835 of those donations was during Big Match Fortnight, which those £835 gets tripled. So that means there's an additional £1,670 goes on top. So that means in total, Cycle for Change Part 2 has raised £2,870. That is amazing. So thank you so much to everyone who's donated, and to those people that have supported the Big Match fundraising, the Big Match Fortnight that has tripled that £835. So yeah, £2,870. Now what that means is, combined with Cycle for Change Part 1, if you look at the Just Giving stats at present, my total for Cycle for Change altogether stands at 9,847. But if you include the Big Match Fortnight in that total actually comes to £12,517. So that is Cycle for Change Part 1 and Part 2 has promoted the fundraising of £12,517 for the World Land Trust. Now, for me, that is the most sort of rewarding part of all this, to know that much money has been raised for the World Land Trust and will positively protect and preserve land forever. Not only is that protecting the biodiversity within that land, that is retaining the carbon sequestration properties of that land as a fight against climate change. That's why I started doing this in the first place. That's what it was always for. So to know that that's our sort of total figure, to know we've broken that 10,000 mark, if you count Big Match Fortnight, that is the most amazing figure, £12,517. If I've done my maths right, which it probably isn't, but I like to think whatever we've raised, that's been amazing. But yeah, thank you so much to everyone who's had an involvement in that. That is fantastic. So, all in all, what that leaves me to say now is obviously one big thank you to anyone who's had any part of this, whether it's a donation, whether it's supporting from home, whether it's a partner brand, whether it's school, everything. Thank you. It's been incredible. I'm obviously pretty exhausted, just getting used to life back at home, but I have to go back to work now. So what that means is Cycle for Change for now is kind of done. That's the original 8 weeks completed, the first 6 weeks, and then this 2 that have just gone. So that means that in terms of what I set out to do, in terms of what I aimed for, cycling as long as far as I could for 8 weeks. That's completed, and I've raised, or I haven't, but you have raised a significant amount for the World Land Trust. So because of all that, I've achieved what I meant to achieve, and as far as I can see for now anyway, Cycle for Change is kind of done. There may be projects in the future, who knows, but certainly for a while my focus is going to be on other things, obviously family and work, and just my normal life in general. But yeah, I'm pleased with what's happened. I am satisfied with what we've done and what we have achieved, and yeah, that will see me through for a considerable time yet. So massive thank you. I wish you all the very best. And if any other things sort of crops up or any other donations come in, I will post about that. But in terms of my presence on social media as Cycle for Change goes, this will be it for a while. And yeah, I will see you all again at some time in the future. Okay, folks, take care. Bye.